Hello, everybody, and welcome back. And I've decided to name this Astral Travels, even though it's not astral travel, and in that part, but it's traveling throughout the astral plane. So, anyway, I'm Aley from Heart and Soul Connected, and I'd like to welcome my guest, Diana Bowles, aka Oil Painter, who is simulcasting on her channel. And then we have Paul, aka White Dragon, the commander of a fabulous ship in the sky. And then we also have with us today, and joining our panel is Diane G, who also is going to tell us a little bit about herself, if she wouldn't mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I'm Diane G. I'm an Akashic Records reader and an emotional energy healer. And I also work with the Galactics.
Wonderful.
So currently I'm working in the Plleadian side. I have a medical ship there that Paul calls the Galactic Minute Man, and we travel across the galaxy.
Wow, that's fabulous. You'll have to tell us if you've seen sails up.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Her ship's not called the Minute Man. That is the organization that we will.
Yeah, my ship is called Ion, I-O-N.
Ion.
It's a part of the Galactic Minute Man.
And also, Diane is the monitor extraordinaire.
Oh, thank you.
I don't talk about a bounce. This girl's all over the place.
Yeah, she is a busy girl. So I know you're also doing a show now with Linda de Gonzalez.
With Linda.
Yes.
Yes, we'll have our next show on May 21st. It's an Akashic Records reading and clearing show. So Excellent. It's called Into the Ether.
All right. That's very nice. So Paul's kind of got some things to share with us today. He got some permissions from some of his people he works with and some of the big wigs. And we also have some wonderful AI pictures that he put together that we'll show you. And we're going to talk a little bit about the book, The Prism of Lyra, as well. And Paul only asked that you don't ask any questions in the initial part of this because he's got some very strict guidelines that he has to go through. And so we're going to leave it up to him to let us know when we can take your questions. But I do want to say hello to everybody that's here. Welcome. I'm not going to list you off by name at this point, and you know I love you, and I always do that. But I'm feeling as though we need to get to this because there's a lot that we're going to process today. So thank you so very much.
So let's just get the Lyan records open, and let me go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, they're open. So now, just in case that we want to ask a question that requires the Akashic read. But basically, what I wanted to start with was just to talk because it affects all of us. I mean, Aley, Diane, and myself, and that's really the why I put up the pictures. I sent the picture, and we can start with the Platium pictures first.
All right,
that one. The Platians are very advanced, and they were involved in the latter part of the migration. And I don't know specifically when they got started, but they're kind of tall usually. They live about 800 years. They look almost human, with the exception that their ears may be just a little lower on their heads and stuff like that. Both male and female look very gorgeous and handsome. So if you ever see somebody like that, it's probably one of them. And I understand that Diane G is from them. She's one of them.
Yes. It's actually a common misconception that all Pleiadians look Nordic. So that's not the case at all.
No, they got different types. They got different types. Yes. But the ones that are here on Earth are like this because they look like us. And they're easily, they integrate easily into the populations. So then the other one I wanted to talk to was put up as the cat lady.
Okay. Let me find her.
She. she's one of the beings that showed up as one of my guides recently. And I started to talk to her about it, and she said, I said, okay, who are you? And I got, her name was Lyra, Lee-Ra, and she is some kind of princess from the planet of the cat people.
Oh,
which
wow.
I think it was where the whole trouble started, but I'm not sure. I mean, we need to ask that question. So, anyways, there's some people that who came from that. I mean, most of them are gone, but not all of them. And and she has a special office in my command ship that I made for her, and she's advising me on the war that's happening right now with the Draconian Empire. So she's a very important lady. She also, I also asked her if I could tell them something that's kind of special. I didn't expect it, and I'm just going to say that, and she agreed to this, and she said that not all her people were destroyed. Some of them got away, and they're in hiding. So she didn't want to go beyond that, and that's fine. I don't want to, put them in any kind of danger or anything like that. But they're around. They're just,
Paul, there's some people that I've seen that have had cosmetic surgery. They've had whiskers put on themselves, and they're made to look like. And I'm wondering to myself, are these people remembering being in that lifetime? It just is an interesting concept.
It's possible. I mean, I've met some people like that before. They look very strange.
Yes, I know. Yeah. No, this woman looks pretty good. She actually looks like Kim Kardashian with cat ears.
Oh, she's very good looking and very regal, very, very regal.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with the AI that I use, I mean, the AI kind of gave me a little racy kind of pictures. And even though I have a filter on it, and this is okay. I mean, there were some that look like she was like a tabby cat, and she doesn't really look. She looks a little more like this.
Okay.
So, and then the other one I wanted to go by is the Hardarian lady.
She looks like a Lynx Point Siamese.
Yeah, right. And these are the Hardarians, and they were also involved in the migration. I don't quite understand when they got involved, but you want to tell them a little bit about that, Diana?
Yeah. So the cat people, my understanding is they began on Lyra. Now, when we talk about Lyra, we have to realize that this is our concept of God. This is the ascended being without a body, the energy of creation not needing to create. However, the prism is about the fragmentation. The fragmentation is suddenly there were fragments separating, creating these facets cut into this prism, right? And as those segmented, their idea was, well, I want to be in control. And then there were others who stayed in a more, I don't want to say divine masculine and divine feminine, but we must, because there's a separation, there's a polarity. So the divine masculine and the divine feminine that were together in the beginning as non-physical beings, just the wholeness, the oneness of what we want to call God. But anything you want to apply, be here, Allah or Buddha or any superior creator being. So there is a school of fragments who are of the divine that want to be of service. So they become the softer and are referred to as the divine feminine. And there are those who say, well, no, wait a minute. Somebody needs to be in control. Somebody needs to be boss. So that is given the divine masculine. So when it's all together as one, it's integrated and there's a balance. But as the prism began to fragment, the balance separated. Now you can go linear, as I would talk about the North Node and the South Node in your astrology chart. It's a pole. It is always the same degree on each side. Somewhere in the middle is where you have to meet, right? So you adjust that as a teeter-totter as to who has to come down, who has to go up. In this fragmentation and the fact that we're talking about a prism, now we're going to be triangulating. And as they work back towards the middle actually ascends. So as this was happening and Lyra was blowing apart, some bounced down to the planet Earth and some bounced out in another direction. Well, that integration, you know, those who were of the, I don't want to say warring variety, but of the dominant variety who thought there must be a leader, there has to be somebody who says yes, no, and takes control. They bounced down to Earth to try to set all of this right. So when the Lyrans that were on Earth, that were of the, no, we have to be in service to each other. We must remember that there is a wholeness to all of this. If we don't have that wholeness, then we're bits and pieces. So they didn't like this warring that was going on, where there was this dominance trying to come in and take over what they had already established as the beginnings of humanoid life. So they bounced up into Pleiades. And we all know all of the different legends about the seven sisters. Whether you look at it from Buddha's angle or from a Cherokee angle or from a Ojibwa or go to South America, those seven sisters all have a similar story in each culture. One of the legends here in Virginia is that it was the Bear sisters bounced up there to get away from the bear that was trying to take control of them. So the legend even feeds into that centuries ago, long before the book, The Prism of Lyra, came along, where she does go into this, as well as just other schools of thought all over the planet. So as this polarity started to say, well, now I got to conquer that and I got to go conquer that, it began bouncing around. And that is where the beginning of life starts. Whether it is on this planet or Hadarian or in what is that, Zeta
Reticuli.
Yeah.
Reticuli.
You know, wherever it is,
Uh-huh.
the same things seem to be going on. The fragmentation, the dominance. And when we look at this, we look at it as 1D, 2D, 3D, 4D. Well, Lyra was 7D, 10D, 16 string, whatever you want to call it. It was up there in the highest because it had no physical entity.
Right.
But the idea of that created this explosion. So we can look at that also as the Big Bang Theory, as how it all started.
I always thought that it all started in the Lyrian era, in the Lyra space. And you know, I made some notes here. The Lyran, the Lyrans is a constellation.
Yep.
And then we have some planets that or some star systems like the Vegan system that for some reason, I think that's you're from the Vegan system, Aley. Do you happen to know that?
I was told I was Mintakan.
That's the belt of Orion.
That's
Yes.
yeah. Mintaka is in the belt of Orion. That's correct.
But that doesn't mean I haven't spent time in other places.
Right.
Right,
Yeah.
because
So
that fragmentation and bounce was going on everywhere.
everything, it's like Diana said, everything it fractured, and after the whole thing happened in that area and where the Lyrians were, it just fragmented. Now there was the Plleadian side, and the Plleadian, the Lyrians started the migration, and then they were running away from who, and they started the migration, and then they picked up because they were constantly making trouble for everybody. So and then when after were the Plleadian people. Well, they weren't Plleadian then. They probably were in some other space, and then they wound up in the Pleiades, and then somewhere along the line they met up with the Arcturians, and the Arcturians, they said, they got together and they said, let's help these people out, and they helped them. They helped their planet ascend to the level where the bad guys couldn't reach them, and that's where they're at. And then they came over here to the Earth, and they're helping us. That's why there's so many Plleiadians here. You just don't hear about it. You hear more about the gray little guys with big heads. I call them big head midgets, but I don't think they're that
This
important.
guy?
That is a Turian.
Okay, that's Nocturnal.
That's Arcturian.
But there's like 4 different types of Arcturians that me and Dr. Gale have identified. These are the highest level ones. There's the taller ones. There's the smaller ones. There's some that are even greenish color, and there's another one that looks kind of like crabby creatures. But I don't know.
Wow.
That's 4 different ones. So the Arcturus is a constellation of Bootes, Bootes, and that's like 37 light years away. And also the Plleadian, it's a constellation that's like 400, and the sisters, that's like 440 light years away. And Lyra was about 25 light years away. So if you consider also that Orion's belt is where we have the belt is 3 stars. They're called Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka. This is where I think Aley said this. Somebody told her from.
Yeah.
Mintaka, I think it's key here. And every time when I heard that name, something just popped out with Mintaka. So I think we need to ask the question first to see what that's in the records. And the question that I want to pose is when to the record. I'm sorry, to the record masters. It's when does this whole thing start at the Lyrian space? When did it start, and why did it start? So we can start with Diane or Diana, whoever it is. You each get a turn. So whenever you're ready.
Aley too should weigh in because she's good at this stuff too.
That's all right. I'm happy to hear what you girls have to say first.
And you can join into Aley. I didn't know you did Akashic stuff too. So
No, that's okay.
Whenever you're ready, who wants to go?
So Lyra used to be a very peaceful place. And the Draconians, actually, from what I know from my previous dives into the records, they were from another universe. They got kicked out from their universe for causing trouble there. And then they came to our universe. They went to Draco. And they were kicked out to Draco. And since Draco and Lyra were close to each other, it's one of the places that they attacked first. But they didn't attack immediately. They kind of tried to get trust first. There was a lot of deceit. And they were after their resources because Draconian planets didn't have that much resources compared to Lyra. So that was what they were after. And there were some Lyran people who they didn't know that they were being deceived, that the Draconians wanted their resources because it was a young constellation. They didn't have any prior experiences to this before, the Draconians. And so I can call them a little bit naive. They weren't stupid, just a bit naive.
Yeah. So Draco is that negative charge we were talking about, and Lyra is not. And this is where the conflict began. And it's like the explosion is like, the story of Star Wars. It is Alderaan, where Princess Leia is from, and that explosion is everything goes, and those who were not on the planet at the time, and those who were able to make an escape at the time, the fragments wherever they ended up is how they had to begin a life somewhere into some way, taking on an entity as they are floating through space and falling together in certain pockets. And then, oh my gosh, even the thought is empire. The so many books. The Foundation trilogy by Isaac Asimov. Empire. He's one. It is a one. That is Lyra. It is a one. But what does it do? It fragments and becomes a many, and in that deception aligns with Draco.
Now, the next question I want to pose, if you have one, Aley, you can just go ahead, or if you want to.
No, I was just getting the feeling that it was the Draconians' impetus to steal as many planets as they could. I don't know. Yeah.
Wow, that's really interesting.
Yeah.
The question that I really want to ask now is, what happened to the Lyrian planet where the cat people were? Was it actually exploded, or was it taken over, or anything like that?
It shattered. It shattered. It wasn't. It ended.
Diane?
The planet itself shattered, but the cat people, they went to Cassiopeia.
That sounds right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That goes along with what Lyra told me, that not all her people perished.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure she perished because she wouldn't be where she is right now. But it's very interesting that, and I'm so happy that some of her people got away. The whole Lyan migration situation is so painful for me to even know what happened to them because of what the other guys did. So it's really crazy. It really is crazy. And then it started. I don't believe that they stopped there. They kept going all over the place because they're conquering kind of mentality for that whole empire. And by the way, what you see in Star Wars, it's a true story. It's this story.
This is Aldebaran.
Empire and the Emperor in Star Wars really is the Draconian Empire.
Mhm.
And you can also, Paul, align that with Dune, because it's also time hopping. It is not a linear thing. It is an experience. It is a progression, right, Aley? It is
Yeah.
it is a Diane, weigh in also. It is like okay, we experience it from this angle, with this mentality, with this knowledge, with this wisdom. Wisdom is awareness. And in order to be aware, how do we appear? We appear as insectoids first, to those earthlings who are maybe of the fourth dimension now,
Mhm.
fifth dimension.
Mhm.
But somebody who is trapped in the 3D, or an infant in 1D, or a toddler in 2D or 3D, where you start to become aware of the I factor. But if you're in 5D, you're aware that I is a part of the whole. There is no I in team. And you are certainly aware of that in fifth density.
Right.
And so you're working for the consciousness of all, the whole. And
Mhm.
so in that fragmentation, they're just bouncing in different time zones. It's got nothing to do, it's just the wisdom that they take. You think about how Dune had been created and written. These wonderful authors that wrote all this material had this knowledge because they've been there, not because they themselves read a book, but as they were in their fourth dimension as teenagers, they were experiencing it. And they liked it better than that 3D world that people were trying to trap them into. We get trapped in that 3D world when we become wounded as children.
Yeah.
Wow.
Now, one of the things that just came to mind is, Dr. Gale told us one time that there's a lot of these draconian type creatures trapped in the lower parts of the 4D.
Oh yeah.
And when we traverse through that area going into the higher realms, they try to like sidetrack us, like hold us back and keep us from getting to where we need to go. So, they're not all in the 3D. Some of them are, some of them not, but they can't, there's a certain level that they cannot reach because of their nature. So it's, that this is what I understand. Anyways, you have any comments on that, Aley?
I have really felt that way because you will also see some of these reptilians who could be the Draconians in some sense, and they shapeshift. And it's because they can't stay in that 3D because they're actually trapped further down. But so that's why you can see them, and they move through in a very, it's almost like, I don't know, you've seen a lot of people here on the earth that actually are from that reptilian lifetime that are trying to work through whatever it is they want to work through here because the level is so low. But I also want to say that the Prism of Lyra, it was created by the collective consciousness of of humanoids for a specific purpose. And it was because they wanted us to have a home to go back to, because a lot of these planets are gone now, like you said. And
it's really sad, really sad.
It is really sad. But if we have that collective consciousness, which is what we're tapping into here in the Akashic and other realms, then we have the history embedded within that consciousness, and we can lift it and bring it back to the source and other people who want to hear about it and learn about it.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And then, at some point, they got all over, they started kicking people off their planets, and some of them ran.
Yeah.
And that's the picture of that I sent you with the spaceships flying off. If you want to put that up.
Yeah, sure.
They were running for their lives.
Sure.
And a lot of the ones that did that kind of stuff were the Plleadians.
Mm-hmm.
So the next question I want to ask the Akashic Masters are, okay, so before these people that were running away wound up in the Pleiades system, uh, what was their actual situation, and what were they actually running away from when they did this?
Conquer.
Yeah.
Being conquered by others, not allowing to be being forced into slavery, not service. Because one thing that they maintained in the shattering and moving and becoming humanoid is free will.
Right.
Some of the basic laws that we have for humankind to begin with. Say that again. We break into this earth, whether you follow religion or not. There is an innate understanding of free will, freedom of choice, whether it is the rules set by your government or the faith that you follow, or just your innate sense of ability. You know your powers, but you know that your powers can be very hurtful. And then the thought of karma comes in. And wisdom erases bad karma. Because when you are aware, you don't do that stuff.
Angie?
This is difficult for me to look at because I was being shown Vega. I was seeing like avatar looking things, like the movie Avatar. I think it's based on Vega.
Yeah.
Whatever they show you, go ahead and talk. Because this is what you put out.
Yeah, I saw women and children being forced into slavery, and it's a very disturbing vision that I saw. If they didn't obey, they would be killed basically, or they would be tortured. And I saw that the migration started in Vega because Vega had the technology. They were the first ones that went out of Lyra, I think.
Okay.
That's exactly what she says in the book about Vega. It is the first place. I made some quick notes on that. Star within Lyra. Lyra descendants were being birthed. That's where the first birthing occurred and where the opposite polarity of Lyra began. So Lyra was the wholeness. The opposition is the fragmentation. The wholeness of service, opposite the wholeness, the lack of wholeness in slavery. I own you.
This is awesome information. I mean,
if you think about it, we all on this planet right now are living a microcosm of that macrocosm, because what's within is also without, and we're going to harken back to that again because we never learn. And I believe that the galactic beings know we never learn, and they're here to help us because we're not listening.
Right. And they still cannot interfere because of that magic phrase, free will.
Right.
Yep. Right. The dispensation was that, these records are not very, very much accessed, but, because they're not really tied to any specific person. There's a large group of people. So the next question I would like to pose is, during this migration from Vega to the peoples that were able to get away while they were being chased by the bad guys, that wound up in the Plleadian system. How did that get started, and where did most of the Plleiadians? What was the beginnings of that?
Oops, sorry.
there's an apex planet that we need to talk about first, because this is where the integration was attempted to get back to the faith of Lyra after it had vanished. And all of these scatters into other areas. And that apex planet was not successful because, again, we still had that bottom argument. I own you. I have free will. I don't like your free will. I own you. I don't like you owning me. I have free will. I'm out of here. So that's the apex. That is the triangulation, is bringing that back together instead of. And there's, in that system of polarity, you have to take the helm and rise yourself, even as we just look at life today, let alone how it was back when that happened. So the Pleiades were colonized by the Lyran, the shoots of the humanoids, right? The Earth main genetic connection is on Pleiades in that star system. And pick a star, can be a life. Pick a planet. There's so many planets and asteroids out there that can support life. It just may not look like us. We may look more like our predecessors, our cat people, our insectoids, because we're maybe in 16th density, in the 16th string theory, where we've become light.
Wow. Diane?
I saw that it started in Vega, and it wasn't just the Lyrans who had the technology. Arcturians at the time also had the technology, and they were helping Lyrans escape. So the first waves of the migration went to Pleiades. But there were other star systems where Lyrans went into. And Jazz is asking me, ask about the Syrian star system. It's one of the star systems where Lyrans went, but it was during the later parts of during the later waves. Pleiades is just one of the first star systems or star clusters where they went. And in the Pleiades, they had two star systems where they went initially. First is Alcyon, that's where I went. The second one is Taygeta. And these two are now very technologically developed star systems. So yeah, that's how I'm seeing that in the records.
That's awesome. And then you have and then at that point in time, the Arcturians got involved because they met some of these refugees. They really were refugees in ships, generational ships, humongous things full of people running for their dear life. Because if they were caught by the Draconians, they were basically enslaved or killed.
Sure. We can't forget about Sirius either, because that's where the template was designed, where the template for the triangle, right, of the positive, negative, and the apex planet. So that is where the whole basis of that thought process came up while that was being colonized. And that was probably actually the first place after the Pleiades bounce that really became a colony of people trying to work together to do this, to come back together instead of being in this polarity.
So the next piece of this puzzle, it's the Orion constellation, and specifically the Orion's belt, because I know that they went through there. A lot of these people went through that area, and they didn't stop there because they actually were found out that they were there, and then the trouble started in that part of the area. So I think most of the gray the grays came from that area, the Orion belt area. So I guess the next question I would have is, what happened to the ones in the Orion area? What happened to the people that were actually taken over that didn't get away? What happened to them?
Aley, how about you? What do you remember from Orion? Anything? From
I don't
time?
have. Yeah, I'm in talking lifetime. I'm just getting the general. I keep being shown Egypt. I just keep being shown Egypt, and I keep seeing the pyramids. And I'm feeling that what you were talking about with that. And that these are just everywhere. These are power symbols, but the collective consciousness of all these systems is carried within the DNA of many people that are here in our world today. I'm trying to discern how far back this all happened. Any ideas, ladies? How far back this was? I mean, is it like trillions of years, or
Yeah,
Possibly.
yeah?
it's hard to put a time on it because time is not linear. And
No,
so
I know.
what do we
Yeah.
say? Right? How do we sum this up? It
Yeah.
ever was and ever will be. That, if God wants you to know the answer, he'll tell you when you die. That's what the nuns would say.
Oh, that's
And-
true.
and
what
Ryan is the
what kind of
proud
happened to
of
the
that.
people that actually did not make it out? That's the question I want to know.
They're
Well,
always
some of them died.
Yeah.
Some of them died, and the others, I think the connection between those people and Orion, because some that did not die, they were taken to Orion. So and it kind of started this whole Orion war. Orion's this really huge constellation, and it was in a long period of civil war. So the three belt stars, they were the divine feminine aspect of the constellation, and it's where a lot of Lyrans actually escaped to, and other beings were also living there initially. Now the Draconians came in, they took some of the slaves, and they settled in the outside of the Orion's belt, in the other star systems. They're basically primarily in Rigel and Beetle Juice. Those two are the star systems where there were a lot of slave trades that were happening.
Yeah.
And the belt stars, they were the peaceful stars. So that's Alnilam, Alnitak, and Mintaka. So that's also where the Black League resistance started. And they were the ones who fought the Draconian Empire, who moved into the Orion constellation.
You say that's where the Black League started, was in the Orion?
And the belt stars.
That's a lot of stars. I mean, the Orion constellation is some of those stars are from 1,200 to 2,000 light years away. That is really, really far off.
Yeah,
So I mean, the migration went away from where the Earth was at that time. So that's a good thing. That's a bad thing.
Well, and Beetle Juice, is old enough to be losing his power. That's why we see him as red and blue, red and blue, red and blue, as a double star, triple star. And so, since that's the battleground and the first challenge to that integration, can you imagine if that was the first challenge and all of this other stuff was going on already, like a bounce to Pleiades and a bounce to Earth and a bounce around here and a bounce. And that's the first challenge. It had to have been all going on at once.
Yeah.
No matter what time frame you got to when you got there, right, Aley? Because it's an orb, not linear.
But the other thing that's recent, they're finding more and more things on the Earth because of climate change and things. One of the things they recently have found is a brand new DNA that has nothing to do with us here. It's not human. And it's not surprising to those of us that know that, but it's like I'm thinking they brought some here. because this was an untamed area and they had to get it tamed. It had to take time. It had to be worked on. You know?
How many of us have negative blood?
No, I have O positive.
I
So
don't know.
I'm
I
A
don't know about that
negative.
either.
And
Yeah.
somebody in the chat I just saw had mentioned something about being O negative.
O negative. Yeah. Yeah.
And so
Yep.
negative blood is also considered to be alien blood because it's not of this planet.
Sure.
Yeah, and one other thing to consider is Beetle Juice is reported to maybe starting to go supernova. I
Yes.
don't know if it has, and Beetle Juice is about 500 years. No, it's about 642 light years away. And if it did already go supernova, which I don't know, that's one question I really want to ask, find out. It's we're not going to see that until maybe 30, 40 years from here, because that's how long it takes light to get here. Now, my question would be, did the Beetle Juice actually go supernova?
I read an article, so I'm not going to ask the Akashic about this because I believe that it already has. And what we are seeing is we're waiting for the blast to hit us, but it still can be 2,400,000 years away before we see it because we cannot measure that. But the article was that it happened over 21,000 years ago, that it already went supernova. We just haven't gotten the light here yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so because of that, I don't want to weigh in on the Akashic.
Yeah.
Sure.
Diane?
I'm not really getting ahead on that.
Well, maybe it hasn't. Maybe we're not supposed to hear. I don't know. I mean, that is a question that I always wanted to know. I mean, did it? If it happened, it's in the record. If it didn't, then it hasn't happened. So, this is really, really, really interesting. And then, you know, after the Platians, and I believe that the Pleiades are very well protected. Is that according to what you know, Diane?
Well, protected by whom?
Protected by the people there. I mean, that's because they are a member of the Federation.
Oh, I see. Yes. In that case, yes. Because there are a lot of Plleadian members of the Galactic Federation. Because we didn't want what happened to Lyra happen again in other star systems. So a lot of us volunteered to be a part of the Galactic Federation. So along with the Arcturians, because Arcturians are like the guardians of the galaxy.
Oh, the Arcturians are awesome. I mean, they got the best tech there is. I mean, nobody beats the Athena as far as firepower.
They're in that angelic realm, Arcturians.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the Arcturians are usually 6D or higher, and they only come down here to 5D or maybe even a little lower, not much, because they got a reason, and they stay around until they finish that, and they zip right back up there. So,
right, they're the idea of the whole integration, returning. They are, you know, that perfection that takes us back to the top of the triangle, where we do it for ourselves. When we talk about Draco, I cannot help but think about Rahu and Ketu.
Yeah.
The two-headed dragon. You cannot help but think of that.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I think we're at the point where I can probably say that, you know, we have they were here. Those Draconians were here on the Earth, and maybe 2 years or something like that ago, they were all removed from the Earth and the solar system. They were taken away. I mean, the really bad ones. And then they cleaned up the whole solar system, and I think this is where the flip over of the galaxy. At that point, they had like 2/3 control of the whole galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy. 2/3 was controlled by these people, in some measure or another. And we're in the part that that wasn't. So then, once after they got kicked out, they, of course, it's like when you go up to a red ant pile and you poke it, and all the red ants come out and they try to bite you to death. Oh, that's what they did, and they got creamed. They didn't make it. And every single time that they have tried a big stunt like that, they have been beaten back to the point where they keep losing ground. They lost 2/3, up to 2/3 of one of the arms of the galaxy. There's two arms, and then the last battle, which happened a few months ago, something like that. That was a big one. They lost the entire control of the galaxy. They don't have control now, and they're in disarray. They don't know what they're doing. They're like thrashing and gnashing at everything that they can find. But every time that happens, they get all beat back, and they pay a very, very stiff price. So one of the things that I was tasked to do is, well, what do we do about this? And I came up with this organization I called the Galactic Minute Man, which is very new. And it's like a rapid response force of volunteers, and Diane's part of it. she's running that med ship that goes along with it. I mean, there's many ships that do that. The idea is that at any moment's notice, you can go wherever it is in the galaxy, and that's part of the reason why I asked you to get your ship upgraded.
So, I was wondering about that.
So, I mean, all the ships they can go in from one end of the galaxy to the other in almost instantaneous time. And one of the things that happened that I'm really surprised about is I got the permission from Archangel Michael to use what I call the angelic network. And this is just a network of them to communicate. It was just instantaneous anywhere, in any place, in any dimension. And that is how the alarm button goes. Whenever that goes, anywhere, that's where the Minutemen go.
Right.
And we're operational right now, and I expect it to be like a grassroots movement where it spreads all over the place, and then everybody helps each other. So that hasn't been activated yet. It is active, but it hasn't been used. That's what I wanted to say. It hasn't been used yet, and from what I understand, I mean it'll be used pretty heavily in the future. So I don't know when exactly, but it doesn't matter. We're ready.
Yeah, that's cool. So Leah'd like to know where you're from, Diane G. And I think what she means is your planetary, where you're from.
Oh, where I'm from planetarily, my origin is in Lyra. So I was one of those vegan people, the blue beings.
Okay.
After Lyra blew up, we went to the Pleiades, and I stayed in Maya. So it's one of the star systems that is focused on spirituality. So a lot of the shamans and priests on Earth came from Maya. And aside from Maya, if not from Maya, I would incarnate in Merope. So in the Pleiades, that is the star system that is focused on healing. So it's a star system that focuses on psycho-spiritual healing, emotional healing. And right now, that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, you are. Absolutely.
Her ship is one of those. I mean, usually the medical ships do not fight, but this one does.
Yeah.
And I insisted on that because, when we go one place, we just don't want to risk anything. Yeah. And they can fight just as hard as the rest of them.
Sure.
So, but they're still medical.
Yes.
Understand. So I've got two comments here about the slavery issue, which is really fascinating to me as well, because of what we have had on this planet for eons. This is something that we've been dealing with for a long time. Mary wonders, where does this idea of it come from? Some humans still enslave people and slave people every day. Is this from ego because of illusion of power? And so maybe the question is, do other ETs, are they egotistical? Is that a problem in that? And that would be nice to know in the Akashic records.
It's the challenge to integrate. They do not want to integrate. They just want power over others.
Power over anybody or anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I do like this, and I agree with you, Leah. Once we stop eating animals, we'll no longer be a food source or be trafficked, because they'll be able to tell. You'll be able to tell if people are lying to you, is what she said.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't eaten meat since I was 18 years old. Except
And
fish.
Break it. I've tried, but I can't break it, so I don't know.
Well, I would eat fish because my first husband was an avid fisherman, and it was a big deal for him. And of course, in my desire to make him happy, I went with him and did those things. But once we separated, that was it. I never ate it again.
Yep.
And I have tried, and I can't. My body won't digest it. Besides,
I had to stop giving up. I don't eat cows. That was one of my big ones. But I don't like the taste, and I don't I didn't like how tired it made me. And I really love cows. I'll go hug them if I see them.
Bet you don't eat fish either.
No, I don't eat much fish. Ruby wonders if aliens can read our minds.
Yeah, they're very psychic. I mean, they usually you can read their minds too. By the way, so it's not.
Yeah.
It's
How
not
they communicate.
you can read their mind too.
Right.
Energy of the transfer of conversation without opening your mouth. Yet it is words you are hearing, correct?
Correct.
Yep.
And words that you are saying back in your own voice. You can hear that voice,
I can.
but you're not opening your mouth. So
The way I always hear it, it's in my own voice.
Yes.
With the exception of one time I was talking to Saint Germain, and he sounded different for some reason. He sounded like he had a thick accent, like from one of those European countries.
Right.
And I said, "Why do you do it? You don't have to." He goes, "Well, it's kind of fun." He's the only one. He's the only one that ever that happened with, and I don't know why. I mean, he's kind of funny too.
Well, that's really cool.
No, Larry has his own voice. Merlin has his own voice. Runji has his own voice. Larry shows up as an opossum all the time. And then, of course, the smattering of birds that start talking.
Yeah. Cynthia Rose, you could probably find out through an Akashic reading with any one of us that do Akashic readings. But the other thing is there's a gal, Deborah Zacco, who does soul readings. And she's the one that talked to me about being a Mintak. And actually, she said that I am a Earth originator. I originated here. And there aren't many people that did. And then I went to Mintaka.
Right? You're a founder. I truly can see that. Yeah. Truly. I love to listen to you speak. Your interview that aired today. It's not that you're commanding. It is just easy to listen to what you have to say.
That's good. My husband even said it was okay. And if he did, well, that's unusual.
And of course, Diana is a Hadarian.
Yeah.
She's a space hippie. I call them space hippies.
Space hippies.
I mean, they're so full of this love everywhere, and flowers in her hair and that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So
also, Cynthia Rose, I'll have a show on Sunday. I'll be doing Starseed Origins. So if you want, you can drop by on my channel. And I'll do readings on Starseed Origins on Sunday.
There you go.
That's so cool, because that helps people find out where their origins are.
Absolutely.
I mean, this goes along with this whole theme, and it's I don't know. I mean, it's for some reason it had to happen, And then the special thing that we got two, not one Akashic record master, two of them, because this is really stuff that massages your noodles when you go back this deep in the record. And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, definitely.
I don't, like I said, I don't want to do that myself for like security reasons, but I mean, I could probably do that, but not that I really want to. I don't have any interest in it. I'll let the experts like Diana and Diane and Aley do it. I mean, there's plenty of people who do that on the internet now, which is wonderful, because that's something that's really
true. We have a lot of people out there, and we can't speak enough about actually the woman who really brought this into the forefront in many ways was Dolores Cannon back in the 1990s.
Wow. I mean,
she was the godmother of all of this.
She's a superstar. I mean, I do believe that she actually contacted Nostradamus in real time. Well, not in real time, because time dilation is different from his time to her time.
Sure.
And he said in those books that, if he was in there for 4 or 5 hours, it may be like 10 minutes for Dolores.
Yeah. That's right.
So, before we move on, or
we're actually at the top of the hour. So yeah.
Do we have time for me to show the cards that I drew before?
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
You can do that. In the meantime, I've got this question from Angela. Do the ETs each have their own language? Like the Egyptians, do they leave any written records here on the planet? Would be interesting to know if you can. Yeah.
Yes, I will say yes. When we looked at the pictographs and we look at the hieroglyphs and we look at when we hear light language, when we hear sounds that we don't understand, when we hear black people talking, these are all the different languages, and they're coming into us because they're speaking to us.
And there are some languages that have never been deciphered still here on this planet. And one of them is the Voldich manuscript is one of them. Right. Yes, the Voldich.
And Aramaic is another, to this day, a couple of words that but the rest of them is
right.
Yep. So, and it's more to be discovered. I mean, there are caches of stuff that is not supposed to come out now. It's supposed to come out later, and it will. I mean, and it will, and then you'll know, hey, we ain't been the only ones here. There's been more people coming around.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
right.
So, Diana, what did you pull? What did you pull for your cards?
My finger says yes, and I think we'll be here to know.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I did no rhyme or reason. I just chose from this deck, and it's amazing. The order in which I pulled them is basically the order in which we spoke. The heart of the sky. Oh, that's Lyra. Right?
Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then we talked about Vega. Well, Vega's a pretty, pretty bright star. And then we had the sun.
Oh, yeah. Look at that.
So the sun came out. Then we talked about Pleiades. And with Pleiades, we've got this wild woman, because people were bouncing off of Earth from Lyra to Earth and back out because they wanted to get away again. So the wild woman is off to the Pleiades. Then we had the sorcerer. Now, the sorcerer, I'm going to remind us all about the black dragon, the black words, and the black Merlin. And this is where he originated. And in doing this, we got to go to the dog star. And then we talked, there was a question about time, space. We have none. It is the time masters.
Yeah.
Chronos,
there you go.
Right? And the very last, Orion, he is the hunter.
Oh.
I have absolute chills because they're all standing here. The heart of all of that is just standing here.
Yeah.
In these cards, and there was no rhyme or reason to the way in which I pulled them,
Right. Perfect. That's perfect.
All right. So it's time to close the records. Just 1 second.
Yeah.
they're done.
You doing?
So we're all closed. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really pleased. I was kind of worried about this.
Oh no, it's
this
all good.
because I wasn't sure if it was going to work or not, because this is a different kind of approach.
It is a different approach, and we're only doing layers, Paul, and that's why we're coming back every 2 weeks, because it's all in layers, and everything that we're doing is in divine timing. I really truly believe that.
So beautiful, Aley. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Diane G. And welcome to the panel again. And thank you to everybody in the chat. We surely wouldn't be here without you. And we thank you. Please go over and like and subscribe. Diana's got her channel up and running. And Diane G. Whoops, wrong way. Diane G. has her channel. And she's got some great shows coming up. So thank you so much.
Hit the thumbs up.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Sure.
Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.